So today we're going to finish the note packet that we've been working on, and I stopped in different places in different classes. So if you like, oh, we already took notes over this, then just fast forward to the part that looks unfamiliar to you. So last we left off in class, we were talking about the limbic system, and I believe we got through the hypothalamus in all the classes. But let me refresh your brain. This is the part of the limbic system that's responsible for the four F's of our reward center, like our pleasure center. So this is going to be the pleasure that we get from food, fight, flight, and fornication. And so that's the F word that we're going to use for that. Next up is the amygdala. So this is it's pronounced amygdala, but it's spelled like Amy G Dalla, and that's how I always remember it because, like Amy, she's just so emotional, and this is your emotional control center of your brain. But we're talking about like primal, simple emotions like aggression and fear, anger, disgust, things like that. Love and guilt, those are complex emotions. So you're not going to be finding them in the amygdala, but you're going to find the same emotions in the amygdala that you would find in like the animal kingdom. Like if a wolf can express this emotion, then the amygdala is responsible for that. So, like I said, aggression, anger, fear, disgust. The hippocampus is another and the third of the last part of the limbic system. So this is about memory. I know that we talked about memory with the frontal lobe, but the hippocampus is more about the ability to make memories. So, this is not where memory is located, but the ability to make new memories. So, while this is a video, so you can't click on that link, this hippocampus is a link to a video of a guy named Clive Waring, and he has the worst case of amnesia ever recorded. And he loses the ability to like make new memories. So he's constantly, and he also has lost like his past memory as well. So he's just the worst case of amnesia. But he cannot form new memories. So he can't meet new people. He can't go to new places. He even will get lost if he like goes down the street and tries to come back. So he can't form new memories. That those three things make up the limbic system, and you can see them like they're kind of like a little uh, like donut shaped cluster that's around something called the thalamus. That's a different part of the brain. We're about to talk about that. All right, so now we're on the brainstem. So you can see a picture here of where how far the brainstem actually reaches into that cerebral cortex, and so it doesn't just stop here. That would be your spinal cord that stops right there, but your brainstem goes much further. So the brainstem is like the basic functions to stay alive. So starting at the very bottom, working our way up. Let me move my picture here so you can actually see these parts. Is the medulla. The medulla is responsible for breathing and like your heartbeat. And this is going to be something that you like share with like a goldfish. So whatever a goldfish can do, the brainstem can do. And so, the frontal lobe is what really differentiates you between like an animal. But, basic animals are going to have these lower brain functions. So medulla, breathing, and heartbeat. The reticular formation, you can kind of see these like blue things on the screen here. It kind of like looks, they're inside the brainstem, so you can't actually see it, but you can kind of see through it right here on this picture. This is arousal, meaning like awakeness, like how awake you are. So uh, I always think of like you sleep in a bed, and a bed is a rectangular formation, and it's the reticular formation that's going to be associated with arousal and sleep and how awake you are. And it works together with this next part, which is called the pons. The pons is responsible for sleeping and dreaming. So reticular formation does is associated with sleep, but more like awakeness that you have throughout the day, like your circadian rhythm and just being like awake and asleep, while the pons is responsible for dreams. And I always think of like, so your bed is a rectangular formation, and that brought to you by the reticular formation. And then you sleep and when you're taking it like a nap or you're dreaming, you have your head on a pillow pons. So pillow pons, reticular formation, rectangular formation. They go together for sleep. The last part, and probably, I'd say a pretty big important part of the brainstem is the thalamus, and you're going to see this right here at the very top of the brainstem. It's this really like bulbous looking thing. So this is kind of like the post office of the brain. So it's like the middleman between like the brain and the rest of the body. All messages going from the brain or to the brain are relayed through the thalamus, and so it relays messages. And you can actually see it if I go back to the limbic system really quickly. If I go backwards, you can see there the top of it is right there, and that's why the hypothalamus is called that, because hypo means like under or beneath. And so here's the thalamus, this red part, and right underneath it is the hypothalamus. And so the thalamus, while not part of the limbic system, is part of the brainstem, but it sends and receives neural messages back and forth from the brain and the body. All right, continuing on our lower level brain structures. Let me grab some pictures so you can actually see it. Okay, here we go. Here is another brain. So at the very bottom, right underneath the occipital lobe, is going to be the cerebellum. And the cerebellum has several functions, several jobs. One of them is voluntary movements, but more specifically, like the grace of voluntary movement, so you don't have you have some smoothness to these movements. When like the little kids and like teenagers, like young teenagers, they're kind of awkward with their movements and they're kind of clumsy. This is going to be the work of the cerebellum, is by helping that out and like developing smooth movement as opposed to like rigidity and like awkward movements. But you also is responsible for the procedural memories. This is another way to say muscle memory. So if you know how to play an instrument, or swing a baseball bat, or play the piano, so tie your shoes, these things are muscle memory. You don't have to think about it. It's a type of memory, but it's the higher level functioning is not really there. You're just going through the movements. That right there is a procedural memory. So there it is. There's cerebellum right there. So this is voluntary movements, procedural memory, muscle memory. There was a study, not or a case study, I guess you could say, a few years ago, where this woman, she had gone to the doctor. She was 25 years old. She had gone to the doctor for years, trying to treat like inner ear infections, because she had a problem with balance. She was always falling down. She couldn't really walk all that well in a straight line, and she was dizzy, and she thought, I lose my balance, it's got to be an inner ear thing, or maybe I'm just really clumsy. Well, it wasn't until she was 25 that she got a brain scan, had an MRI done, and lo and behold, she was born without a cerebellum. So it's possible that you can live your whole life without a cerebellum and not know it. But she's not going to be the best piano player, because the muscle memory part of her brain is just not there. Another lower level brain structure, it's close to the limbic system, but not part of the limbic system, is the basal ganglia. And this also plays a role in voluntary movements, just like the cerebellum. Um, like uh, uh, like picking, it says picking a piece of fruit with your hand, and routine behaviors. That is just, it's goal directed behavior. Like you have a task that I'm going to do this with my body to reach this goal. Like peeling a potato type of thing. That the basal ganglia will help in that process of movement towards goal directed behavior. And then um, completely randomly, go back. You don't see a picture of it, but it's actually underneath the cortex. If you had to point to it, it'd be right around here, is the olfactory bulbs. And this is the part, it's not part of the cortex, it's not part of the like lobes, but it's directly underneath it. And this is your sense of smell. And so if you ever see the term olfactory, that is your sense of smell. And it's lower level brain structure, but it's not part of the cortex, and you can't see it right here, but it's like right like underneath here, underneath the frontal lobe. Okay, so those are the parts of the brain that I wanted to go over. So just recap, we finished talking about the limbic system. We talked about the parts of the brain stem, the thalamus, the reticular formation, the pons, the medulla, and the other parts of the brain that are just like random parts, but lower level parts, the cerebellum, basal ganglia, and the olfactory bulbs. So now you have finished up your packet. Okay, so yes, we have finished the whole packet. So unit 2 is over, well, kind of, because over the weekend you have homework to watch a video over states of consciousness and answer some questions. This is going to be talking about sleep and dreaming and the different stages of sleep. So make sure you answer the questions that go along with this assignment using those notes, and don't forget to do your homework over the weekend. I will see you guys on Monday. Have a great day. Bye.